A lot of businesses took on a ton of debt during COVID to SBA loans and private loans, and now they're facing the prospect of having to pay that money back, and they can't do it. They're making choices between what happens if I close down, or how do I manage this debt? How do I get myself out of this hole? And how do I keep going with my business? Thank you for joining me on another episode of Motivational Esq. My name is Diego Mendez. Not only am I the host of this show, but I'm also an attorney who has been practicing law here in Florida for almost 20 years. I represent a lot of people in a lot of different situations, specifically people who are losing their homes in foreclosure and businesses that have accumulated way too much debt. If you're paying debt with other debt, then you should really consider filing bankruptcy. What that means is if you're using credit cards to pay other credit cards, or you're taking out loans to pay other loans, then you are setting yourself up for failure because you're not actually paying anything back. You're just accumulating more and more debt. And any cash that you're making for your business is now going towards these new debts that you're accumulating. And eventually the banks will catch on, the credit rating will be affected, and they're not going to give you any more money. So if you're surviving only off of debt that you've accumulated to pay old debt, then yes, it is time to really, really consider you filing a bankruptcy. Another thing that people do that basically triggers the situation is when they stop paying and they don't work with their creditors. If you're ignoring your creditors, if they're calling you and they're incessantly bothering you for collection, or if they're being sued, that means that you waited too long. You took too much time to try to talk to them. Now, it's not your fault. I'm not saying that you should feel bad about that. It's a human thing to not want to deal with these problems. Sometimes it's overwhelming, especially if it's a small business and you're feeding your family with the money you're making. You would much rather go to the grocery store and buy food for your family and pay your personal mortgage or your personal rent than give money to a credit card company or to some bank that's collecting against you. I 100% understand that. That is human, and that is the reality for many, many people. However, if you're doing that, if you're running out of cash and you're using the cash that you're making and you don't have any money to pay your creditors, well then it might be time to file bankruptcy. Now remember, bankruptcy does not always mean that you have to close down. Many times, as I mentioned, through a subchapter 5, chapter 11, you can keep your business going if you can show the court that you have enough money to keep your business functioning and pay something to your creditors. It has to be an amount of money that your creditors will accept when they vote on your plan, when they either accept your plan or reject your plan. It is very important that you understand that when you're filing this type of bankruptcy, first of all, you need a lawyer. You cannot do this by yourself. It's impossible to file this type of bankruptcy. And actually, if you own a corporation, at least in Florida, you can't do it at all because you have to have a lawyer to represent a corporation. But assuming that it's not a corporation and you think, well, I'm going to file this by myself, don't even try that. You will fail immediately. It's a very complex and very difficult process. You need an attorney to do that. But besides that, a good attorney can advise you on the best path, the best way for you to achieve your goal. Maybe the best path is to close down. You need to look at this very coldly, okay? This is not a situation where you can become emotional. This is a business. This is not personal. Even though it feels personal, you should try as best you can to not make it personal. I understand a lot of people love their businesses. They love what they're doing, but you can open another business. You can file the bankruptcy, and maybe Chapter 7 is the way to go. Chapter 7 bankruptcy, a liquidation of the business. A trustee is assigned and is sold, and the assets or whatever the business has is sold. You have to be extremely careful with this type of bankruptcy, however, because sometimes the only asset the business has is the amount of money that it gave to the owners. Sometimes when a business files a Chapter 7, the owners who are trying to do what's right are basically put themselves in a situation where all the money that the business paid them they have to pay it back from their personal funds. You do not want to play around with a Chapter 7 bankruptcy if you don't know what you're doing. Chapter 7 bankruptcy is a dangerous chapter, a dangerous way to deal with debt if you don't know what you're doing. Do not attempt this without an attorney. That is the biggest mistake you can make. It's just willy-nilly filing a bankruptcy because you're afraid of a lawsuit or you're afraid of dealing with it, and you walk into the clerk's office and you file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. You will regret that. You need professional assistance to do that.